Margot is wearing the head of a bear. Willow is scaring the crows with a stare. Daphne is watching, for she is quite stuck. We will see how many leaves we can pluck. Isn't it sweet? When we are hungry, we'll find things to eat, stolen from sellers who shout in the street. Strawberries that dribble with juice in the heat. Ribbons all stream from a magic machine, powered by gypsies who look like a dream. Dark eyes revealing what they really mean.
Good afternoon, I'm Kevin Grist. Welcome to Salon number 6, brought to you from MSL Digital on Isolation Station Hastings. I'm going to be talking to you this afternoon about Sonic Lockdown, which is a sound-based piece of music which I've created online with some co-creators, and I'm going to be showing you that piece in response to people's experiences in lockdown. I'm also going to be showing you some of the software I've used online, and we're going to have a go at creating and manipulating some sound. So I hope this is a useful and interesting session. I'm going to just show you a little bit about, talk to you a little bit about what we did. So Sonic Lockdown was an idea that I came up with in terms of us having to create work and music as artists now remotely, so we can't go anywhere, and as you know, venues are shut and workshop spaces are shut, so we're thinking about how we could do something online. But more than that, I wanted to think about how we could invite other people locally in Hastings to take part in something really quite special and capturing almost a bit of oral history, sound history. So the way Sonic Lockdown worked was I set the creators a series of challenges. So I would send them a short YouTube clip asking them to collect a set of sounds on, say, the Monday. They would send them to me on a Wednesday, and then I'd send them another video. And we did that 3 times. And we ended up with quite a rich bank of sounds. We're going to be talking to one of the co-creators today, and I just want to play you the piece. Actually, I'm going to show you how it looks on the screen, so I'm just going to show you this. So this is an online platform that we use to co-create Sonic Lockdown called Soundtrap. And as you can see all of the editings inside. I'm going to show you a bit later this afternoon how that all works. But before I do that, I'm going to play you the Sonic Lockdown piece. And we ended up, just to say, we ended up with 3 versions of Sonic Lockdown as it evolved each time with the challenges. And this is the final one. And co-creator Julie, who I'll introduce you to shortly, she hasn't heard this yet. So this is a first for her as well. I'll just play it for you.
Of the 7 sacraments of the Catholic Church, none is used as infrequently or approached with as much confusion.
I'm just going to shift you across to my desktop. 1 second, and you should be able to hear that now. Okay, right, here we are. Here is Sonic Lockdown.
Of the 7 sacraments of the Catholic Church, none is used as infrequently or approached with as much confusion as the sacrament of the anointing of the sick. More times than not, people don't even get the name right. Last rites and the anointing of the sick are not the same thing, which is a shame because it's truly a wonderful sacrament that could benefit so many more people if they just knew about it. So what is the anointing of the sick, and how is it different from last rites?
This is Sonic Lockdown.
explain the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. It would shed 1,700 jobs. Says the government's furlough scheme must be more flexible.
How to work on one day and on furlough, and straight away you're back on a full-time contract. Gradual kind of working from 3 days to 4 days to 5 days over a much longer period.
The Doctors' Union, the British Medical Association and some public health officials have urged the government to share more data on coronavirus outbreaks with local authorities to help them tackle the disease.
The public need to also be aware that in their area there is an emerging outbreak if there are higher numbers of people infected, and to take measures to prevent a lockdown. So we need to have that sort of transparency and that systematic national approach. This, of course, has to be matched by an agile test and trace system that has capacity, because what we want to avoid is exactly what has happened.
Thames, Dover, southwest 4 to 6, showers. A new lockdown has been imposed.
Okay, so that was Sonic Lockdown. I hope you enjoyed listening to that. It's a culmination of about 95% of sourced sounds from collaborators online, and then a few things that I've added myself. I think it's a great time to introduce you to Julie Gidlow, who was the co-creator online. And Julie, are you with us now? Oh, there you go. Hello, Julie.
Hello, hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
That was the first time you heard the final end piece.
Yeah.
What's your first thoughts on it?
Now everybody knows the sorts of things I'm interested in, which is quite funny. So yeah, I'm glad I had a long time to listen to the whole thing. So hearing the clip right at the very beginning, that's a podcast that I listen to a lot. It's a video blog actually. I listen to quite regularly, and I hadn't realised when I went online to do that part of it, I hadn't realised how appropriate that was really going to be. But obviously, anointing of the sick, I just picked the first podcast that came up with Brother Casey, and I was like, oh, I'll just record that. Happened to be that one. So yeah, it was really interesting listening to that, and I at the very end, the sound of the clapping I actually thought was the eggs frying. So I hadn't realised how similar clapping and eggs frying sound. So so that was quite funny.
That's really interesting to hear. Yeah, so the white noise of clapping and eggs. Yeah, it's hard to distinguish, isn't it? Yeah. I this is the first time we've actually probably spoke about the piece, because we've been, to and froing on emails, and I've been sending you YouTube challenges on things to record. So it's great to finally chat about it. I wondered, from your perspective, how the whole process was for you in terms of doing it in a remote way rather than, say, a live Zoom session. How did that work for you?
I actually really enjoyed it being remote, and having time also to do the challenges. So if I think about I'd had to do them live, that would have been quite a lot of pressure to suddenly find something and then send that through to you. It was quite difficult sometimes to think of what I could record. So the very first challenge was to record can't even remember what the first one was. It was sounds around the house. Was it something specific? I can't remember.
It was to do with health related stuff, wasn't it? Well-being.
That's right. Yeah. Health related issues. That was really difficult because, well, I landed up recording things that actually maybe weren't that healthy, apart from my son on the trampoline. So I was like, yeah, healthy activity, and playing swing ball in the garden. So there was some healthy activity. Things that I associate with health are things like meditation and prayer and very silent activities. So that was actually really difficult. And then I landed up recording things that were decidedly non-healthy, like my daughter was frying some eggs, which aren't really very healthy. And in the end, I was coughing. Well, I actually went in to record my son and my husband were playing a game, a board game, and I recorded them. I never sent you that sound because it was too much talking, I think. But they made me laugh so much that I landed up having this asthmatic fit. I'm quite asthmatic, and I was coughing really badly, and I just pressed record and started recording that. So that became the horrible cough that I sent to you, which I kind of regretted sending. So every time a recording came back to me and I heard that cough, I would be thinking, yeah, now I know what all my friends and family mean when they tell me how awful I sound. I didn't realise it was that bad. So it was difficult. It was difficult to record health, I think, and walking around the house thinking, well, what can I record? And I only had like one day to do it in. I was quite busy working on other projects, so I literally had to kind of just go, oh, there's this, oh, there's this, oh, there's this. Yeah, I'll just record those things, and having the time to send it back by email, that was really, really helpful. And that became more so, I think, with the last one, which was the nature sounds, because I did not realise how quiet nature actually is. Apart from birds, wind, and water, if it's running over something, nature doesn't really make much noise. So I don't want to talk too much about that because you might come on to that later. But I was blessed in the end with a magnificent thunderstorm to record. So that sorted itself out. But yeah, it was challenging finding natural sounds to send back to you. Yeah, if I had to do all of that live, that would have been very difficult, I think. Yeah. You'd have wasted a lot of airtime.
Yeah, no, I think also, I guess, from my perspective, it was interesting just to see what the future of this kind of work is, because it's a kind of non-live way of working, but it's also participants can just do it in their own time to some degree, and use their phones for it. It's quite good for that. But I'm keen to ask you actually, out of all the three challenges, so we had health, we had nature, and we had some kind of news announcements. Which one was your favourite one?
Well, in the end, it was nature, but because of the thunderstorm. So I'd actually gone out on a really long walk on Thursday evening. I went with a friend along, well, we'd landed up walking all through Hastings. So we walked up onto the White Rock and then onto the West Hill. We went through the old town and landed up on the beach. And I'd said to him, you know, I've got to record some nature sounds. I need to record the sea or something. But it was so windy down on the seafront, even though it was that really hot day. It was about 30 degrees at sort of 9 o'clock at night. And there wasn't enough sound to record. There were no birds. We went and got chips. Right? I always get attacked by seagulls on the beach. So I thought, yeah, I'll just sit there with some chips. I'll get attacked by the gulls. I'll record the gulls. But they didn't attack me. So there wasn't really anything to record. And I came back and was like, oh, no, I think I emailed you and said, is it okay if I get this to you tomorrow? Because I haven't really got anything. And then at 4 o'clock in the morning, on Friday morning, I got woken up not by the noise of the storm, but by this amazing orange light that was in the sky. It was a light that really woke me up. And that, when I heard the storm rumbling in the background, I leapt out of bed actually, and I went out into the garden and stood under really dangerous. I stood under the trees, listening to the dawn chorus with the sound of the thunderstorm rumbling in the background, and recorded that. So it was quite exciting doing that. Yeah.
That's proper.
So I think that was my favourite in the end.
Good.
It was a gift.
Yeah, no, there's proper commitment. When I saw that, and I was like, oh wow, you actually, went out there and did that quite early in the morning. That's great.
Yeah, put my life at risk doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
What we do for art.
I wanted to just talk through, just while you're there, actually talk through a couple of the things that I did on this last track and why I did them. And it might be worth me just sharing back on the screen as well. I'm just going to do that. Let me just share this again. Here we go. Okay, so on this lockdown, I just wanted to demonstrate how I did manipulate some of your sounds. So on this sort of rhythm and drum beat that was created, this is basically your egg frying and one of the swing balls you captured in the garden. So I just shortened them right down. You can get and I added a bit of reverb. So that's literally just sounds you made. And then I added in some birds here, sort of hi-hats. So there's lots of very sort of subtle things just to hold it together. And then there's some earlier birds there. And it's amazing how you can start to get a sense of rhythm just with playing with a few bits of audio.
Yeah, I didn't recognise that swing ball when I first heard it back. It took me a while to realise that was the swing ball.
Yeah, completely changed it. No, it's interesting, isn't it? So that was one thing. The other thing I thought from an artistic perspective was one of the things I always struggle with is a starting point, and this process for me was really interesting because it gave me quite a limited set of tools to play with. So you were giving me material to work with, but it was sort of bound by what you'd given me. So that was a really nice process for me, just to kind of get my teeth into something quite fixed.
Yeah, and likewise for me actually, that having the challenges that were very specific. That was actually really helpful because if I was just told just go and record some sounds, it would have been very loose and really not focused. But the fact that you were asking me to record very specific sounds, it made it a lot easier actually isolating the things that I could record. And yeah, I think having that, I'm very good at responding to other people. I'm not very good at just thinking of something out of the blue. So yeah, so for me that worked really well as well.
Good. And sort of little short chunks of work, I thought worked nicely. Yeah, that's kind of the other thing in that final piece that I just a couple of techniques I wanted to sort of explain to people. One there's a bit where an expert's talking about some of the science of lockdown and stuff, and then I've put this sort of laughter right over the top of it, and the idea of just some techniques in terms of like these opposing, quite a serious statement and this laughter, and almost making a kind of statement around those two don't really go well together, but in some quarters of society there has been this sort of ignorance of science. So there's that whole thing there, and this thing of playing with words. So you've recorded your shower, and I've included that a lot and weaved that in and out a lot.
Yeah, that was my daughter. She doesn't know that I recorded her.
Oh, okay.
But she does now.
She does now. There you go. But, and there was a bit where the weatherman on the radio talks about showers, and I just used that. So you make those words of sounds.
Yeah.
The guy at the beginning who talks about the sort of religious side of things, a sort of American guy, isn't he? And the way I got an American guy's voice to say "Sonic Lockdown" was I used an AI app. I didn't touch his voice at all, but I used one of those speak to text apps with the American male voice and just manipulated that, and it just sounded almost very similar the way he talks. So luckily that was a good mistake. So,
excellent.
Just little things like that. Yeah. So what do I want to show you now? I'm going to talk through just how this platform works, because I don't know if you know, Julie, I after this session I can share this with you, and you can actually get in there and remix it and edit it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, wonderful.
The great thing about this platform in your own time. So I'll just share that one more time, and I'm just going to explain to people watching as well how this platform works. So for those of you who've used a digital audio editing platform, you might be familiar with some of these things, but I'm just going to talk through some of them anyway. So on the left side here in Soundtrap, you obviously have your different sounds. They can be audio sounds, so the things we brought in from our phones and recordings, but they can also be what we call MIDI sounds. So you'll see in this one, you've got notes that you can edit within, and they're often played in from a keyboard or something like that. There's loads of choices of different instruments for those MIDI sounds. There's just endless things, synths and guitars and strings, so you can have a play with that. And if you grab a bit of audio, if you want to edit audio, you just grab a piece of that and you can shorten it, lengthen it, do things like that with it. You can reverse it, that sort of thing. So it's a really nice platform. The other great thing about this is at the bottom here, you can browse loops, and there was a couple of loops I used in there as well. I used a piano loop, and at one point I used a bass loop, I think in the first version of it, which had a slightly different feel to it. So you can search for those here and you can drop those in as well, and it automatically times them. So it's quite a nice platform just to try out some ideas.
Wonderful.
And I can invite other people in here. So I will do that later, so you can go in and have a look. But yeah, worth the play. Are you familiar with this sort of software, Julie?
No, no, I've never done any kind of sound editing at all. So yeah, it would be really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, despite the fact that I'm very interested in sound and sound recording, and I record a lot of things on my phone. So as I was walking around, and particularly in the early part of lockdown on daily walks, I was recording as well as taking, because I'm a photographer, so as well as taking photographs, I was making sound recordings as well. But I've never really known how to do anything with them. So yeah, it'd be really exciting to try that. And in fact, I do need to get, I think, an extract of the shipping forecast for the next project. So if I could extract that, I could use it, which would be really cool.
You could do that. Absolutely, yeah. All right. Well, I was wondering whether we should have a go with this and create something live online now, to just demonstrate it in action. And I don't know if you've got your phone to hand.
Yes, I have. Yes, it's here.
So, I wondered if you were able to record a couple of sounds in there. Maybe if you could just record some clapping.
Okay. Right.
So I'm going to stay quiet.
Okay. Enough.
That's great. Yeah, and could you just email that to me?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll pick that up this end. So we'll just demonstrate how this all works. Whilst that's happening, I'm going to just create a brand new track in Soundtrap.
Okay, it's just called New Recording 27, so it's not excitingly named.
Excellent. Right, I'm just going to get that on. So whilst that's pinging its way across, I am just going to show you how to create, if you're into Soundtrap, you open up a new project, and in this case we're going to do music again, and we're going to give it a name here. So we're going to call it, I'm going to call this one Julie. And
so come over, okay. It says it's sent, so.
Yeah, I should have it. It is. I've got it, fantastic.
Isn't modern technology wonderful sometimes?
It is, it does work. It does work most of the time, yeah. Right, just going to send that over to my main computer. I'll just give that a moment. Okay, right. That's coming across. Right, so whilst we're into Soundtrap, I will just download that bit of audio. This was you clapping, wasn't it, just now?
Yeah.
So we'll just find that. Right, so now we've got that bit of audio. In Soundtrap, we go add, import audio, choose the file, and I'm just going to choose the file from where it's just come in, which is new recording. That's the right one. And so there you go. I've got your clapping straight into Soundtrap. Let's just have a listen. Excellent. I like that as it is. It's done. It's complete. Okay, right. Let's just call that clapping, so we know what our starting point is. Okay, right. So this might be useful. So if we go stretch the audio, zoom in on it, so we can see all the different parts.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pick out that first clap, and I'm just going to cut it.
While you're doing that, Kevin, I don't know if you just saw a message that just came up saying I think Laura has a seagull nest on the roof. And she can send someone up to record if you want.
Oh yeah, I think if there's time, absolutely, yeah, do, and email that to me as well. Thank you. I just message that. That would be great to add in. Yeah. So I've got my little snippet of clapping, and I'm just going to bring that down onto another track here. So I'm just going to create a brand new track and just bring that down. And let's just have a listen to that for a start again. So we've got a one-off clap. I'm still going to make sure, you see there's a little gap before the clap happens. I'm just going to make sure it's really tucked up neatly to the beginning of it as much as possible. Bring that back. Great. And as it fades out, so the clap happens, I'm just going to make sure this end bit fades out a little bit volume-wise. And I'm just going to copy this little clap and stick another one next to it, and another one, and another one. Let's do 8 of them, just for starters. Let's see how that sounds for a moment. Oh, well, we've got a bit of the original clapping, which actually I quite liked on top of that.
That's quite nice.
It's quite
There's
nice.
A bit of offset clapping there.
Yeah. Let's keep that little snippet in, actually.
You couldn't really replicate that, could you, if you tried?
No. So that's good. And then what I'm going to do is just duplicate that second clapping track. So I'm going to call that clap kick, and call that clap kick 2. And with this second set of claps, which are the same as the first ones, I'm just going to move them along ever so slightly. So this is going to sound very kind of blocky at the moment. So so I'm going to put it slightly back a bit. See how that sounds. Or we can move it slightly further.
I like that. No, I like that.
Do you like that one? Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like a typewriter.
It did actually, didn't it? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move it back there. Let's keep that one going. I might turn the second one just down a little bit, so we've got a little bit of variance on the volumes. Nice.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
I like that.
Okay. And then what we're going to do is we'll leave the rest of your audio just to one side for a moment. We might come back to that in a moment. Let's have a look at some other things we could add into this. So I'm just going to put this onto a little loop. So we should play that over and over again. This is where you might get a headache after 2 minutes, so I apologise in advance. Okay. So if we go over to the loop section, what we can do is, let's just go up full screen. We've got the loop section. We can find some kind of loop to put in there, and let's have a look. Do you fancy any particular instrument?
So I can't see where to choose them from, or do I just have to say one?
Just say one and I'll find it if you can't see it.
Could it be any instruments?
Yep.
What about saxophone?
Saxophone, let's have a look. Oh yeah, there's a few in here. Let's have a look.
Nice.
Any of those? Or
what was that first one that you played? I think was nice. Tabby 2.
Let's try that one.
Like that.
Okay, great. Let's see how that fits with it. Okay. It's got a bit of a swing to it, hasn't it? Okay, so there's one idea. Let's see. Let's try a synthesizer. Let's see if we can find something. Okay, so we'll try that one. I'm just going to mute that sax for a moment and come back to that. The trouble with something like Soundtrap is you could possibly spend all afternoon on it. So.
It's a better time waster than Facebook.
Yes, it is. Ooh, might not be letting me have that one. Let's try a different one. No, it's not letting me have that one. Let's go for a different one.
Oh, was there
Oh, so Julie?
I don't know about that. Vintage piano, that sounded interesting.
Let's try vintage piano. Bit like sound like we had a little bug in the system there. Some of these are quite experimental sounding.
Yeah. Welcome. Or toy piano. What about that one? That Yamaha CS30, whatever it was.
That was it. Single note, C5.
Oh, okay. Not so exciting.
Oh.
That's nice. Oh, I like that.
I'll go for that. That's a little bit eerie, isn't it?
Yeah. I had a piano that sounded just like that when I was a child.
Did you?
Yeah.
Let's see how that fits. Okay.
I like that.
Okay, great.
That's better than the saxophone.
Better than the sax, okay.
Yeah. It's also something I might play, whereas I'm not ever going to play it.
I'm still waiting for this seagull. Hopefully we'll be able to introduce a seagull shortly. Let's carry on. So let's cover a couple of other things. Shall we have a look at some bass? Does that work? Let's see what we've got. Hopefully we'll find one in tune with the piano. Let's see. Well, that's quite spacey and a bit subtle. We could try it. It might work because the piano's quite spaced out. It's quite dissonant to the bass. It's out of tune, but that's,
I couldn't really hear it. Could you?
Couldn't hear it. It might be very subtle.
I don't know.
No, it's very subtle, isn't it?
It's very subtle.
We don't like subtle.
No, no, we need it. Yeah,
we don't do
much
subtle.
Stronger. I'm just wondering if I've got any of the other things that I recorded.
Oh yeah.
I didn't send to you. If they're of any use.
Yeah.
So
If you
I didn't send the beach in the end. That was a lot of wind. That's probably too much wind noise, I think.
Yeah, it's worth saying to anyone watching actually that one of the things I was saying on my challenges was trying to record single sounds, because it's very hard to separate all the kind of ambient stuff that's
I
often
found
scrambled.
that is really difficult. That's really difficult in a town, and certainly with the natural sounds, you can't separate out. I mean, I think the one I sent to you was birds and rain and thunder all together. And yeah, if you've got any kind of wind noise as well, then all you hear is that it's very blocky sort of noise, isn't it? So that was difficult. But even in the house, it was quite difficult to isolate sound. So I had, I think I recorded the dishwasher, and I was having to like go around the house telling everyone to just be quiet because there's 5 people living here, and it's like just recording the dishwasher, you know. It's really difficult to do.
It is, yeah. Again, for those watching, the white noise is a kind of scramble of all frequencies, high and low, and it's hard to distinguish things. But one of the things I did on the track was with the shower noise and the other ambient noise. There's the washing machine and stuff. Is I used EQ to kind of boost some frequencies and lower others, so that they sounded slightly different.
Yeah. And also, I did find it difficult to tell the difference between the the shower and the eggs frying.
The egg, very similar.
Yeah, who knew that frying eggs sounded like having a shower? It's quite telling when you do this sort of thing. I'm just going to send over to you. I will send you this is slightly longer, but this is the game playing which set off my cough. And the beginning part of it, I think, is quite fun. It's my husband and my son. Playing Chaos Space Marines. Oh wow! So I'll send that over to you.
If you're happy for me to just do that, yeah, absolutely. I'll have a look at that. Great.
The very beginning, but I think it's got them charging or something. So
great.
That was quite fun. Anyway, if we don't get seagulls, we could have boys playing games instead.
I can see some seagull sounds have been sent across to me as well, so that's awesome.
Lovely.
We'll have a look at those as well.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Right, get these across. Let's just download those. Yeah, it's interesting. While I'm just doing these, it's interesting about the nature stuff, isn't it? I did a project not that long ago in Sussex called Solace, which was asking people to record sounds in their back garden, and surprisingly, quite a large number of people sent stuff. And I know you were saying like it's very hard to kind of find sounds of nature sometimes, but they were finding stuff like there was closing up on like bees and bugs in the deep grass, things like that. But the challenge is wind, isn't it? Wind is always the challenge outdoors.
Yeah,
I find.
And Hastings is very windy, so every time we try and do anything outside, it's really difficult to capture that isolated sound. I think things like bees and insects, if we were doing this in the height of August, we would have found that a lot easier. But at this time of year, there weren't so many of them around. There's lots of butterflies. They don't really make any noise.
They don't make any sound, do they?
No. Moths and butterflies, they're very quiet. And we do sometimes hear owls. So I live quite near Alexandra Park, so there's owls that we hear, but they didn't make any noise in the night. So I actually sat out one night, must have been that Thursday actually, that really hot night, when I got back from my beach walk, and I thought, well, I'll just sit in the garden and sat outside in the dark with the phone, thinking I will definitely hear an owl. I always hear an owl. No, not a sound at all.
Really?
And we get foxes and badgers, and there's normally every night the sound of some little animal being killed by another animal, but it didn't happen. So I don't know what's going on. There's some very weird screechy animal noises coming from the park. So I don't know, but yeah, perhaps the fact that I was there in the garden, they knew I was there, even though it was really, really dark and they couldn't really see me, but they knew I was there and they didn't come into the garden. So it was quite disappointing, really.
It's weird.
Well, I'm not disappointed that the animals were okay, but that was good.
Do you think nature has got quieter or louder, or do you think it's just because I was talking to another artist about this, and we were saying we think the soundtrack of Humans during lockdown with the traffic and that literally it's like a mixer. That bit got turned down and it almost exposed the nature level that was already there.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it's quite shocking, I think, as the traffic started to increase again and the sounds of humans have come back in, you realise that most of the sound that we hear in the world is man-made sound, and that we are incredibly noisy. Everything we do creates sound pollution, and it's really, you can't escape it, and you don't notice it under normal circumstances. But at the very beginning of lockdown, when everything just sort of stopped almost overnight, it was very noticeable, and everybody was saying about the birds. I wrote a blog piece about it for MSL, that the birds were very, very noticeable. And I think it wasn't just that the traffic stopped and you could hear it more. It seemed to me, certainly, and to a lot of people that I spoke to, that there was something that they recognised that the world was in trouble, and that they were singing. They seemed to be singing. Maybe I'm just over imaginative, but they seemed to be singing in a way that was supposed to bring us back to health. And they knew something was wrong with us, and that we'd all disappeared, and it was noticeably different. But it did seem like they had purpose in what they were singing, and I'd never noticed that before. So I think it was both things, actually. To me,
really interesting to hear. Yeah. Well, on the nature theme, I'm going to return back to the Soundtrap, because we do have the seagulls loaded in, and your clip as well of the gaming. So I'm just going to come back to that one, which is here, and let's have a quick listen to. Am I okay to play your gaming one in isolation? Yeah,
it's fine.
Let's have a look. Oh, I've got it on a loop. Hang on, there you go.
This is fun. I said this is easy.
This is so easy. It's a walk in the park.
And now everyone's dead.
And now it's your turn to take a card. No, my turn.
Oh, yours. Please don't be so bad.
What is instinct?
Is it? By that face, I can tell it's not good.
No, it's evasion. When a player resolves an attack action next round, he may only attack with one Space Marine instead of both. So things with heads go walkies. There aren't any things with heads. There is a minor infestation behind the control panel.
How much is that? One.
No, it's over here. And a minor infestation behind the ventilation duct.
Yeah, that is the sound of my lockdown.
That's awesome. I wonder if I can use some of that laughing in there, because there is a child laughing in there, because I didn't have a clip of that, but maybe I could just replace it with one of those.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
That's great. No, and there's something about the capturing of oral history here, isn't there? And a lot of archive places have asked for people's photos and things. I don't know if they've asked for sound as much, actually. Have you heard it?
No, I don't know. But one of the things that really attracted me to your project was exactly that. So I've got a friend who's been going out every morning ever since the beginning of lockdown on her daily walks, and she's been taking photographs of different areas. So it's been like a themed walk each time, and that's been amazing. Just a visual record of what those streets were like in lockdown. And I thought your idea of doing that with sound was really, really interesting. And I love oral history anyway, but I think that how you put it all together as the overlaid sounds is really good capture of what this very intense period was like. And no, I haven't heard of anyone asking for sound files particularly, but sound is something we just take it for granted, don't we? We don't realise how important it is. But I found, actually, I think sound to me is more evocative even than visuals, and it's, and I'm a visual artist, I'm not a sound artist, but I really respond to sound very well. I love it. It lets your imagination kind of go as well when you listen to those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And seeing the connections that you made, like with the when you put those clips together with the, as I say, the sacrament of reconciliation, the sacrament of for the anointing for the sick, is really I just hadn't even thought about that. And then when you see it coming back to you in that edited sort of way, and it's like, yeah, that's all really appropriate. And the shipping forecast and the showers that were predicted, and that shipping forecast was the day before the thunderstorm, so it's sort of all tied in together. Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? It's all about, I think you're right, sound and music can create, it's a kind of a hidden persuader, but it also, like you say, the context of things have changed slightly, haven't they? You're hearing things slightly differently or reading things differently now, which is interesting. I'm just going to pick up on a comment in the chat, which is someone says, my friend got approached by Radio 4 for an interview because people noticed such a dramatic increase in pigeon sex. So,
maybe they were the strange noises I was hearing in my garden.
That was probably it. I think that we've solved that mystery now.
That's good. Yeah, no animals are being harmed. That's good.
So I'm going to go back actually to that screen, because I think I just wanted to show that in action, because we had a couple of pigeon sounds sent over to us just now. If I can still find them, where are they? Here we go. So I'm just going to share that again. And right, here we go, back into Soundtrap. So let's just have a listen to these sounds from Hastings, or the Hastings area. Let's have a look. Here's the first one. Ooh. That sounds
like a hoover.
Like a hoover sucking a pigeon off the roof, maybe. Let's try the other one.
That's one we're dealing with.
And we're not advocating sucking pigeons off the roof, but that sounds like a seagull, sorry. Excellent. Well, that's a very vocal seagull, isn't it?
Yeah, a hungry seagull. Probably.
Let's pop that into the track. I think that one deserves to be in the track. Let's have a look. Let's see what we can do. So I'm just going to edit a bit of that seagull in. Turn that off. So again, just shortening that yellow clip right to the edge of where I can see some sound happening. That's probably enough, just a little snippet. I'm going to bring that right back here for a moment. Turn that loop on again. Let's have a listen. Unmute it. So I think everyone should dance to this on the beach.
I have friends that really would dance to
it. Great. Well, that was a bit of fun. That was great. So yeah, Soundtrap. It's free. It's a great bit of software, and I will invite you into the Sonic Lockdown one, Julie, so you can have a play with
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. That would be great.
Brilliant. So let's just go back to the main screen. See if there's any more messages. No, we haven't got anything else in there at all. I just wanted to ask you actually, Julie, just before we wrap up very shortly, I think I touched on it earlier, but do you see this kind of way of working remotely as a long-term thing, or do you think this is just something we've all had to quickly adapt to now, or do you think something's changed for the long term?
Yeah. It's very hard to say, isn't it? I think that people I have friends that fall into two distinct groups. So some who immediately embraced this kind of way of working and just went wholeheartedly into the electronic world, and others who said right from the very beginning, no, it's not for me. I'm not going to do it. That's I just want wait for the real world to kind of come back, and so the world seems to be very divided at the moment. I think it is inevitable that we will have to work like this a lot more. Perhaps not exclusively. I think perhaps the mixture will be really good. For me, I have found bizarrely, that the challenges of being in lockdown and not being able to meet people in the real world have kind of opened up avenues that weren't there, that wouldn't have happened had I not been doing everything online. So I've made 2 new friends online who they're friends of friends. I might have met them eventually, but it kind of it increased the opportunity to meet people in that way. And that's actually been really positive. But I think we've seen both the benefits of working like this, but also the downside of it. And a lot of people, I think, after 3 months or so, have kind of got Zoom fatigue, and they don't want to be on a screen the whole time. So I think we need a mixture, and I think long term that's probably what will be happening. But I think we're at a point where we feel like we're coming out of something and things are easing, but this is probably just the start of things changing for a lot of people. And I think we just don't know where we're going to be in sort of 6 months to a year's time, but nothing's going to be quite the same as it was before. I mean, I actually quite like technology, but I also really like seeing people in the real world. So I think having a balance for me is what would work really well. I would hate everything to be always exclusively online. I do miss meeting people in the real world, but yeah, it's actually worked very well in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think it'll be a mixture probably.
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, it's about partly what you touched on. It's how there's a couple of things, isn't there? One is not everybody is able to access stuff online still, and that's a huge concern. And trying to think about lo-fi tech as well. But like you say, building technology into our normal everyday lives. So that's why I think the phone is a great way of kind of while you're out and about recording stuff, encouraging people to use technology outside and whilst they're doing exercise. There's been some great uses of tech, isn't there? Which is for health reasons and stuff. But yeah, we are in a massive period of change, aren't we? It's historical.
Yes.
It's hard to know where this is all going to go.
I hope that people don't just kind of get back to normal and forget it. I mean, I'm really torn between not wanting anything to change. I've really enjoyed the 3 months and how weird everything has been, and how different it is, and how we've had to be very adaptable. I've really enjoyed that. And I think it's quite depressing now when you step outside the front door and the roads are full of traffic again. I mean, actually, if there was one change I would like to see, is that I'd just like to see all cars gone and nobody have a car again, ever. And I have a car, so I'm not,
I don't have a car. I walk everywhere, so I'm very happy for that to happen.
I loved the world with people on foot and on bicycle, and it's been so disappointing to go back out and see queues of traffic, and I'm not enjoying that. I'd quite like some of the things of lockdown to remain in place. So I don't know. I think all of us feel a bit like it's been hard. It's been difficult kind of coping with the sudden changes and the things that we've had to do differently, but there have been a lot of benefits to how we've been living as well. So if we can just work out a way of kind of being financially okay without having to carry on working like we were before, that'd be great. The world will be perfect.
Absolutely. Someone said bicycles forever in the chat. Totally, yeah. We've just got a few minutes left, so I'm just going to play out the track again, just to hear it one more time. But Julie, thanks so much for joining us and taking part. It's the first time we properly spoke after doing this remotely, so it's been a massive joy doing it, and I hope you've found it great too.
No, it's been amazing, immensely enjoyable, and I'm really pleased with the results. So yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Of the 7 sacraments of the Catholic Church, none is used as infrequently or approached with as much confusion as the sacrament of the anointing of the sick. More times than not, people don't even get the name right. Last rites and the anointing of the sick are not the same thing, which is a shame because it's truly a wonderful sacrament that could benefit so many more people if they just knew about it. So what is the anointing of the sick, and how is it different from last rites?
This is Sonic Lockdown.
shed 1,700 jobs. Says the government's furlough scheme must be more flexible.
How to work on one day and on furlough and straight away you're back on a full-time contract. Gradual kind of working from 3 days to 4 days to 5 days over a much longer period.
The Doctors' Union, the British Medical Association and some public health officials have urged the government to share more data on coronavirus outbreaks with local authorities to help them tackle the disease.
The public need to also be aware that in their area there is an emerging outbreak if there are higher numbers of people infected and to take measures to prevent a lockdown. So we need to have that sort of transparency and that systematic national approach. This of course has to be matched by an agile test and trace system that has capacity, because what we want to avoid is exactly what has happened.
Thames, Dover, southwest 4 to 6, showers, a new lockdown has been imposed.
Margot is wearing the head of a